Hey everyone, it's vmcampos, comic book fan. Welcome to another episode of the weekly vmcampos Comic Book Club. This is the series where I review a comic book, new or old, from my collection for the cover art, interior art, plot, and enjoyability of the book on a scale of 1 to 5. And then I tell you to get it or shred it. This week I'm reading the American Journal of Anthropomorphics, but not issue number 4. I'm reading issue number 3, published in 1995 by Med Systems Company. So a little bit of background information. This is a classic comic book from the 90s, from the furry fandom. Furries nowadays are much more well-known, less of a cult fandom, less underground than they used to be. Furries have been around for a long time, you go back to the Disney stuff, Robin Hood. Disney's Robin Hood was like a big turning point for furry fans. More recently, Zootopia. So furries are everywhere. You may be a furry, you don't even know it. Furries, of course, are the people that are fans of Anthropomorphics, which is animals with human-like characteristics. And they range from everything of G-rated to triple, quadruple X-rated. Everything in between, and it's all cool. Mostly. I was first intrigued by the furry fandom in the late 90s when I went off to college and I got the fastest internet connection that I've ever seen in my life. And so I started to delve into that fandom in the late 90s. And my interest in the fandom has waned throughout the years, but I'm still a fan. I guess I'm a gray muzzle nowadays. So, the American Journal of Anthropomorphics was a semi-annually published book featuring mostly art and some stories by the biggest names in the furry fandom. I showed issue number 4 as the thumbnail of this video because I think it's a better cover than this one. It's a Steve Martin cover. No, not that Steve Martin. But I think the other one is way more iconic in the world of furry fandom compared to this one. I think this one's a little too jumbled, but we'll get to the review in a moment. So that's what I'm reading this week. This vintage furry comic anthology from the late 90s. Alright, cover art. Like I said, this is a Steve Martin cover. No, not the famous Three Amigo. Steve Martin, furry artist. His art is on the cute side, in the chibi side, and that sort of thing. I think it's classic furry art. It's very high quality. He was often doing like painterly style of things. This cover looks like it's a Hieronymus Bosch type of cover, like one of the levels of hell or something, because it's just a mishmash. I don't even understand what's going on. There's some sort of like Nutcracker or Terminator or soldier kind of thing battling a winged rat, I guess. The princess is caged up. Oh yeah, that's what this is. This is the Nutcracker, right? Because there's a Christmas tree, sugar plum fairies, the Nutcracker itself. It's a weird cover if you look at it and analyze it little by little. There's a lot of interesting stuff on it. There's kind of like some mouse just getting completely fried and nothing left but a skeleton. And there's another one with like a much more hilarious expression. Again, this cover, like what is going on in this cover? So on further examination, it's pretty interesting, although it's very chaotic. It really invites you to just look at it in detail. Compared to the other cover that I previewed, the Michelle Light cover, this is like way over the top. So what do I give this? I think there's a lot of great artistry in it. I think it's way too jumbled and chaotic, so I'll give it a 4 out of 5. It's a fun, weird cover, just a little bit too jumbled up. Interior art. Well, this is an anthology comic. The foreword by the editor begins about like, what is this book about? And he talks about that it's going to be like a headshot of actors and actresses. It's going to be like a phone book, like a who's who of furry artists, so you can contact them, get commissions, etc. So the table of contents includes such artists as Eric Schwartz, Terry Smith, Daphne Lage, Terrell Wayne. Those are some of the big names. Kjartan Aronson, big names in the world of furry fandom back in the late 90s. So as I said, I got when I got to campus in 1997 and was just exploring all the reaches of furry fandom, especially on Usenet news groups. These were the names that I was seeing then. And this was a published magazine printed in the U.S. that showcased the artists. So we have Eric Schwartz, creator of Amy the Squirrel, and then of course Sabrina Skunk from Sabrina Online. The book is just full of different art. It's all black and white. Some pieces look like they were in color and then reproduced in black and white, which often don't look that great. The quality of the paper stock is good. It's nice, bright white, still after all of these years. And it's just really cool to look at this time capsule of artists and styles from so long ago. This fandom has existed. I count it starting from the 90s, but since the 80s there were furry fandom. There was furry fandom way back then as well, and again in the 2000s and the 2010s, and then now in the 2020s, it still continues. So just a great variety of artists. This is a 10 out of 5 in just the variety of artists, the famous, the less famous. You know, can sample. Some names are more famous than others. Some art I kind of recognize. Some of the styles I recognize. It ranges from cute cartoony stuff to military stuff to sexy stuff, fantasy, very detailed, very intricate pop culture mashups. This is just vintage furry fandom. It's just a great time capsule in what this fandom was. The people that were, let's say, were in their 20s at this time, now they're in their 40s, their 50s. I know I am. And it's hard to believe. You look back on this and like, wow, 1994, I would have seen this art back in high school. And now so much longer later. So what's interesting is that most of the pieces are current in 1994, 95, but there's a few that are marked copyright 1993 and such, so even more vintage. And there's some pieces that are just like, I've never seen these, and these are so amazingly detailed. There is a piece by Ronald van Belkoven, which I don't think I ever knew that name, and he drew just some like detailed black and white work. It's not just like color converted to black and white. It looks like it was done like wood carving. Engraving is just so detailed, contrasted with another one that is more just simple black and white. Just the quality does range from extremely detailed professional to more cartoony, less professional, but still some are pinups, some are actual stories. We see the variety of art styles. So yeah, just great. 10 out of 5. Plot. There's very little plot. At the beginning, there's an editorial about, the publisher starts off with, what is this book about? What exactly are anthropomorphics? Is the question most people ask upon seeing this publication. The answer to the second question is simple. An anthropomorphic character is any object or animal given human-like abilities that they do not normally possess. As to the first question, when you think about it, you will realize that this is sort of characterization is all about us. They are used to sell cereals, video games, snack food, cigarettes, clothing. The use of anthropomorphic characters in advertising has been steadily growing and shows no signs of abating. Cute animal characters sell products. Simple, proven fact. Today, the journal acts as volumes of headshots as they do for actors and actresses. Interested companies and individuals perusing the art will find contact info for each of the featured artists. Okay, so there's a little bit of like biography on each particular artist. Eric Schwartz, widely known for a series of animations in the computer field featuring his character Amy the Squirrel, Eric has appeared in issue 2 of the journal, as well as elsewhere. He attends conventions all across the US, etc. So all of these artists have a little biographical sketch about them. Some of them do just like a splash page type of illustration. Some of them have some text. A couple of them have a little bit more of a story to them. I think plot-wise, well, it's not that easy to grade because a couple of stories might not be great, and that shouldn't bring down the grade to the whole book. So I'm not going to give a plot sort of grade. But I guess if we think about it in terms of as an artifact of a bygone era in the fandom, I think it's just a really interesting book. The enjoyability of the book, it was very enjoyable to look back on some of these classic artists from 25 years ago or more. Some that have been around quite a while, some that were just a blip and disappeared, the variety of styles and stories, I got this off of eBay very affordably. Okay, so back in the day, in the 90s, cover price was $10. I think I got it for $6 plus shipping and handling, so I guess I did get it for like $10 or $12 or so. And I thought it was a very cool book to get, just to kind of go back in time to a bygone era in the 90s when things were very different. I never had this book. I had, what was the name of that other book? Gallery. I had a few issues of Gallery back in the day. I think this was the more famous of those. And there were many zines and APA books back then. Everyone was able to publish one of these. You send them a few dollars and they'll send you one quarterly or semi-annually or whatever. But I think this is the big name in the world of classic furry art. I got two at the same time, issue 3 and 4, and again, I think this Michelle Light cover is just way super iconic to the fandom. This one was published in January '97, and it's the same sort of idea. It's just a variety of artists showing off their work, a little bit of background info, how you can commission them, what their costs are, and so forth. And it's just another range of art styles from cartoony to realistic, very detailed. There's like a piece that looks computer generated. It reminds me like something made on a Mac and such, like a vintage Mac in the 90s. There's some realistic styles, cartoony styles. It's a really cool artifact in time. So the enjoyability of the book, it's a 10 out of 5. It was really cool to look back on the history of the fandom in these books, to reminisce about the old times when times were simpler, when the most important thing in the world was for me to get to class on time, doing some drawing and sketching on the side, looking at these talented artists and thinking, one day I might be able to draw like them. They're so talented, and I'm so not. I still think that. I think we all do. When we have aspirations, we always try to reach those aspirations, and sometimes it's easier than it's easier to reach for some of us than others, but keep reaching for the stars. So, get it or shred it? Well, if you are into vintage 90s art, definitely get it. If you are into furry fandom, go look at the old stuff from these old timers. Definitely get it for that. If you're not into furry fandom, well, don't get it. But there's just such a great variety of artwork to enjoy, maybe to get inspired by, maybe to resurrect these artists if they're still around. I think this is a good couple of purchases, and that's what I'm reading this week, the American Journal of Anthropomorphics. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. Don't forget to head on over to my Patreon, patreon.com/vmcampos. Consider following for free because you'll be alerted to everything that I do regarding comic books, Magic the Gathering, live streams, giveaways, all of that great stuff. Follow for free on Patreon. Consider pledging at $1 to unlock exclusive stuff and be eligible for the various contests and giveaways that happen on a regular basis. Or simply like, comment, share, all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. Were you a furry fan back in the day? Are you one now? Are you interested nowadays? Tell me all about it in the comments. So this week I read the American Journal of Anthropomorphics, number 4 and 3, published back in 1995 and 1997 by Med Systems Company. This has been the weekly VM Campos Comic Book Club, and I'll see you next week.